Ladies and gentlemen, a podcast that is 4 years in the making, if you've been watching long enough to remember that old podcast. But I'm here with the Bar Room, and this is episode 0, because if I don't like episode 0, you guys will never see it. So aptly named. And I'm here with some special guests here. We're going to talk about some stories in the world of TV and movies. But I have some special guests here. I have the condescending Josh, who works with me with Bounding into Comics. So if you are a fan of Bounding into Comics, you probably read a lot of his work on the site. He's joining us tonight for this special episode. Then you can see we're here with TW Booty Hunter, who just made the transition into TV and comics himself. So he's going to be going around. He'll be going around talking about some of the things that he's going with today. And then, of course, the one and only, our very own residential girl, Trap Queen, is here with us today. Say hi, Trappy.
Hello, what's going on, guys?
So yes, this is episode 0 of the Bar Room. When I first started Society Reviews back in 2016, so we're talking about almost 6 years now, I wanted to start a podcast, but I didn't really have the ability or the guests to do so. So we started a couple episodes way back in the day. Didn't really pan out the way that it did. So it's like, you know what? I work on building my network up a little bit more. Then we'll come back with a vengeance. And I think, this time around, coming up on the 6-year anniversary, it's like, well, no better time than now to get this thing rolling and ready to go. So now I'm here with a few guests here. So I wanted to basically just kind of talk about just some of the things that we're going to discuss here today. So we're going to talk about things such as the new Marvel Cinematic Universe films. We're going to talk about a little bit of Star Wars here tonight. We'll talk about Netflix and the whole chaos going on with them. So we'll cover the whole different range of topics. So this would be something different than you've seen before previously, but it should be pretty fun. And we got some pretty good guests here to give their input. So I just wanted to give everyone a chance here in the panel to kind of introduce themselves and give them, the fans here, a kind of an idea of what you guys do and anything that you want to promote. You go ahead and start with Josh here.
Right, thank you. Well, basically, I'm the condescending Josh. My name is Josh Berger, and I am, well, the reason why I actually know Jacob, or I don't know if I'm supposed to say your name. Crap.
Nah, they pretty much already know if they watch Black Hill streams.
Right. Society Reviews, basically, because we both write for Bounding into Comics, which I hope you're familiar with, and we've basically been covering the same topics, right? So I was just covering celebrities before you came in, right? And then you started writing about celebrities as well. It's just like, it's so nice to have like somebody who's also writing about this stuff as well, because it's like, sometimes it's like, it takes me out of my comfort zone, and it's like, I don't know, writing about, I don't know, Demi Lovato, who knows who she is? I
exactly
know.
Yeah,
right. And yeah, that's basically what I do. I don't really have a YouTube channel, but I'm always every Wednesday on the Black Pill stream, which is the Bounding into Comics stream, and we talk about pretty much the same things that we're going to talk about today. So there you go. That's my intro.
TW, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the public?
Oh yeah, what is up, guys? TW Booty Hunter here. Yeah, and anybody who watches me, basically knows what I do. For anybody that doesn't, I play video games. I recently just put out arcade mode playthrough of Mortal Kombat X earlier today. And I also talk about TV shows. I review TV shows, movies, music, video games. Yeah, pretty much a whole bunch of shit. And even more stuff to come in the future. But that's pretty much a rough synopsis of what I do.
And then, of course, we have our soft-spoken but loudly opinionated Trap Queen. You want to say hi to the people, Trappy?
Hey, guys. So, I'm kind of new to doing, like, a podcast, because I probably know me from Smart Busters Live, but that's not really, like, a podcast format. That's just kind of them talking, interacting with the chat or whatever. But I used to do wrestling videos. I kind of took a hiatus from that. Maybe I'll go back to it in the future, but I'm kind of just getting back into this whole thing of like commentating on events and things like that.
All right, there you go. So yeah, like I said, you get to know the guys here. Well, we'll talk about a range of issues outside of the world that some of us are normally used to. But we got a good panel here. I think we'll have some good discussions. So I think a good start off point for this one, we'll start with TW here. We'll talk about Doctor Strange. Now, I'm not sure if anyone else has seen Doctor Strange. I'm assuming Josh has. I'm not sure if Trappy has yet, but
Not really. I don't plan on watching it anytime soon. So
Yeah. So TW just watched Doctor Strange, and I want to give you a little thoughts basically about that movie, because that's actually going to parlay into our first topic, which would be the next Thor movie. But I wanted to talk about Doctor Strange for a second to kind of parlay the overall theme of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So you just recently saw this movie, and your review of it wasn't very positive from what I take, right?
No, not at all. This was pretty much one of the first times that I had seen a Marvel movie in forever, or even a superhero movie in forever. And I gotta be honest, man, this was an absolute dumpster fire. Not only did the story go completely right over my head, but just the characters seem like a bunch of assholes. Like the supposed heroes, Doctor Strange, you know, getting with a supposed married woman and shit like that, and pretty much steering her away from her husband, who was apparently treating her so well. Wanda, who we're supposed to sympathize for because she lost her kids and stuff like that in her vision, which does suck. But at the same time, you also murdered a lot of people. And yeah, and the other character, America, I just don't even get why that character was even in that movie.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up one point about sympathizing with Wanda, because that's actually going to be our first topic. But real quick, before we get there, I want to ask you, so going into this movie, did you know anything about the movie beforehand? Like, do you follow like any kind of movie news, or was it just kind of like a big movie that you looked into and wanted to see because it's a Marvel film? Like, what was your thought process going into it?
I heard a lot of people talking about this movie. I had never seen a superhero movie in a long time since Spider-Man 3. So I already didn't have any prior hopes or prior knowledge going into this. So I was like, okay, everybody's talking about this film. Why don't I check it out? And of course I did, and yeah, the rest is history.
So I want to talk about a little point that you made, because this is actually a point that I had made a couple weeks back when the movie came out, and it was that I noticed soon after the movie released, there was this narrative online that was trying to convey, despite the fact that despite Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, in the film played by Elizabeth Olsen, being a villain, that there were a lot of people that were trying to get people to sympathize with her, that they were trying to prop her up as a sympathetic figure. But you're sitting here and you're watching the movie, and I'm pretty sure you didn't. Did you even watch WandaVision before this one, the Disney Plus series?
Not at all.
Okay, so you probably didn't even know going into the film that in the Disney Plus series WandaVision, which came out a year ago, that the whole storyline of that show was that she ended up kidnapping a small town in New Jersey for about 4 weeks. Yeah, so this was following the events of Avengers Endgame, which is the last big Avengers movie. And she comes back to life after the Thanos snap. And obviously Vision, her husband, her robo-husband, whatever you want to call it, is dead. So after the events of that film, there's no Vision. He's gone. So she goes to this little small town in New Jersey and essentially kidnaps the entire town against their will, so that basically she can play a real life version of make-believe with these two sons that she created using dark magic. And she actually stole the corpse of Vision to bring him back to life via magic. So she's playing out this entire fantasy land with the entire town being held hostage, right? So you watch that and you think to yourself, well, yeah, that's a really shitty thing to do. You would figure that people would see her as, okay, she's clearly the villain here. Now you go to the Doctor Strange 2 movie, and now all of a sudden she's sending demons out to this America Ferrera girl, which you aptly said you don't even know why she's in the movie in the first place.
Exactly.
And she's trying to kidnap this girl so she can steal her powers, so she can go back to another universe where her fake kids exist, but I guess in this universe they're not fake anymore. Yeah. And in the course of doing this, she terrorizes essentially the entire multiverse. She kills a nameless amount of people, all heroes, by the way, as you saw with the movie. And just terrorizing for completely selfish reasons. It's not even we're talking about a situation where, well, I'm doing this for the greater good. It's you're doing this for purely selfish reasons. You're doing this for yourself. Yet somehow the narrative on the internet was that, oh, well, she's sympathetic because, well, her kids. Well, it's like, you remember the whole quote from Brock Lesnar a few years ago about, I don't give a shit about your kids.
Exactly.
That was the whole thing. That was just like the saying that kept like coming back in my mind when I heard like these arguments. I'm thinking to myself, there's no way you could spin this for her being in any way, shape, or form sympathetic.
Nah, bro.
So to talk about this a little more, obviously, I know I'm personally, this is just me. I'm personally not a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. I think we've been through how many movies now? Like about 30. I think there's probably about 4, maybe 5 movies out of that 30 that I would consider to be quality films. The majority of the MCU at this point are movies that are not good enough to be great and not bad enough to be terrible. Like they're just perfectly like in the middle, because at the end of the day, all they care about is getting you in your theaters and taking your money, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, this movie in particular right now, according to Rotten Tomatoes, right, 74% audience, 86%. So audiences are basically just seal clapping that we always say, right? So it's like,
Oh, yeah.
they just show a little bit of right, because the multiverse, or show Professor X or whatever, right? And
Absolutely.
people are just gonna so seal clapping, and then they're just gonna start supporting and consuming products just because, but not really. And that's the other thing, right? Because the MCU has been around for so long that most of the people actually watching and doing all the seal clapping are not really comic book fans, are fans of the MCU, and that's what it is. And this is the reason why they're still like, eating all this up, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
I don't really have anything, right? It's these people, right? So they don't really have anything to compare this to, right? So they don't read the comics, so they don't really care about whatever character is being killed on screen, right? So, I don't care about Professor X. I don't care about Reed Richards. It's like, no, because they don't know who these people are, right? And I think that's exactly what gives you these outrageous percentages, right? So 74, 86%. It's like, what are you talking about? The movie, from what I heard, is like just awful.
Yeah, and we've all seen the videos like on YouTube where you do like the big like Marvel like movie reactions. So you hear like the crowd in these movies, and they're all seal clapping because a character that's been in the movie like at least 12 movies before this point appears on screen, and everyone goes, oh my god, like you've seen it with like, oh, Spider-Man's in this movie. This is like the 6th time we've seen Spider-Man, but it's the first time they've seen him. So I mean that's typically the audience that they're pandering to, like at this point, is that almost, if you look back at what Martin Scorsese said a few years ago when people got upset when he talked about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that he calls these movies basically thrill rides. And if you watch those videos, that's pretty much what they've become. It's like you get a bunch of adults in a room together, seated. Some of them even got like 4DX theaters now. And they basically, like, everything that happens like on the screen, they treat it as if they're in the middle of a thrill ride, just without the seat belts and the special effects, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So going here, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think Avatar, like from 2009, I think that started that whole thing where like movies became more of like how many cool effects can you put in something without their, it's more of a quantity over quality type of thing.
It's more of a spectacle, right?
Because if you remember, Avatar was really that first movie that really popularized or repopularized the whole 3D in movies thing. Now, Avatar, as an actual movie, you can give Avatar a lot of crap because it's pretty dumb and unoriginal. But as the concept, the difference between that film and all the other films that have tried to adopt 3D since is that movie was made specifically to be a 3D, like, theatrical viewing movie, while all the other ones is like, well, we'll just add all the 3D effects in post. So that way, when you go to the movie theater, you're just paying extra money for something that's not even a real 3D movie to begin with. Like, nothing's coming after you. It's like basically you're getting a slightly more dimensional fight scene in a movie that you could do without, but you'll pay an extra $6 to see it anyway. So right here, just basically goes through what we talked about. Thanos kills Vision in Infinity Wars. He snaps Wanda, makes her disappear, and then that leads us into WandaVision. Let's go down here a little bit. We talked about WandaVision. Like I say, I think it's the first one of these series of MCU Disney Plus TV shows. And the sad part is WandaVision is probably the best one of the bunch, and WandaVision isn't very good. But all the other ones that have come out have just been like abysmal. Like you've had like Loki come out, you've had Winter Soldier and the Captain America one. The recent one that just came out, I think was Moon Knight. I don't think anyone even saw that one. So I don't think people even know like that one even exists, even though it just came out like less than a month ago.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead. I'm going. Just speeding up here. So yeah, getting us up to like where the movie is, and for anyone who's watched the movie, we won't spoil everything for you, but it's clear as day to anyone that Wanda Maximoff is a murderous villain. Like she basically and then I think the excuse that a lot of people try to use about the film, TW, you know about this, is that well, she was corrupted by the Darkhold, right? She used the dark magic and that influenced her. But you notice that at no point during the film does the influence of the Darkhold actually take effect in the movie. Like you notice that all of her actions that she does in the film are driven by her. You never get a sense that that there's an evil force behind the scenes that's moving all the strings. And apparently in the original cut, I just heard about this earlier today, that when C. Robert Cargill, the guy who wrote the first Doctor Strange film, was planning on doing the second one, the second film was supposed to have Wanda basically do what she did, but there was her actions were going to be controlled by a Marvel villain called Nightmare, correct? Yes. And then what it turns out is that I guess the studio didn't like the direction of having a horror movie in the MCU, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to turn this film into a pure horror movie. But of course, because the MCU is this multi-billion-dollar money-making machine, they didn't want to stray away from what fans are already used to. So they cut out a lot of things on the cutting room floor, and then essentially what we got is this big cookie-cutter movie with nothing really going for it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Trapka, you haven't? Do you follow like the MCU or any like MCU films such of that nature?
I used to, but then it kind of became like too much, like because they started going from like releasing like a movie a year, and now it's like 3 or 4, and it's like it's ridiculous. Like I think people are gonna keep seeing them though. That's the thing, and that's why they keep making them.
Yeah. And then what was the last one? Was the last one happen to be like Infinity War or Endgame or one of those two?
I think the last MCU movie I saw was No Way Home.
Oh, the Spider-Man movie. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and the Spider-Man, I mean, I'll say the Spider-Man movie was pretty good. I think the thing with the Spider-Man movie is that had it not had the movies that preceded it, I don't think it would have been nearly as good as a standalone film. But obviously you bring back, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and people like the overall structure of the film. And there was a lot of like memorabilia and nostalgia around it as well. So I think that one, even though it was a lot of memorabilia, I think that one was probably one of the more positive ones that's come out over the last few years. Yeah, and then so TW, have you seen what was the movie? Infinity War. Have you seen that movie?
Oh no, not at all.
Okay. Well, it's just one of these, like, if you watch the trailer for this Doctor Strange movie, one of the moral equivalences that they tried to present in the film was that, well, Doctor Strange screwed up in that film, so why is it that people try to, like, get all over Wanda for screwing up in WandaVision? Well, in the Doctor Strange and the Infinity War movie, what he did was that he essentially said that, hey, look, I have to surrender the Time Stone to Thanos, because if I don't, every other possibility of us winning this war means that we're going to lose. So it wasn't as much as a mistake. It was as much as him saying, look, this is literally the only way that we're going to win. And it's not going to be good, but at the end of the day, we will win. And that's eventually what they did. Well, in this film, they try to paint him as the bad guy, because in the Doctor Strange film, for some reason, everyone thinks Doctor Strange is the biggest, enemy in this entire universe, when it's clearly Wanda. And if you even get to like the mid part of the movie, when Doctor Strange just literally tell him, look, Wanda's on her way here, and she's going to kill all of you guys if you guys don't stop her. And they're like, oh no, we can handle her. Don't worry about her. And then what happens?
They all die.
All die. Some of them pretty brutally, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you just kind of
Marvel film. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, it's like I said, this one probably has some of the most brutal deaths, and I think the one line in the entire film, I think you may remember it as well, was when she tells Reed Richards that at least their kids, but talk about Reed Richards' kids, at least their kids will be raised by their mother after I kill you. And I'm thinking to myself, that's one of the most like coldest lines I've ever heard any character say, especially talking about like a villain, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't make any sense to me how, like I said, some people, I guess they're just really big Elizabeth Olsen fans. But to me, it doesn't make like any sense because you're talking about a woman that killed hundreds of sorcerers, terrorized an entire multiverse, and then killed other heroes in that multiverse. It's like there's no way that you can redeem her based on what we saw in the film. Now, there was a tease towards the end about whether she's really dead or not. Obviously, the rule of thumb is, especially in movies, if you don't see a character die, they're not dead. So they may put her on ice for a little while, but I'm pretty sure she'll be back in some way, shape, or form where they'll try to redeem her. But I think at this point, especially after the events of that film, it's pretty much no real way to redeem her after what she's done up to this point.
And it was like I didn't even go. I went into this movie not even originally knowing who Wanda was, but I came out of it completely hating her guts.
Yeah, and like I said, that's kind of the takeaway that I think anyone with I guess you could say a non-broken moral code actually has about the film. But lo and behold, there are some people there that are like, well, maybe not. Mari Parker in the chat says the MCU caters to man children. Like I said, if you guys go online and you see some of those like audience reaction videos, especially of like the last two Avengers movies, here's the thing: you know for a fact that those aren't children in the theater watching this. These are people that are like in their 30s and 40s that are going gaga for some of these films. So all I can say is that I don't really think that Parker is quite wrong there in what he says.
No,
but
straight up facts.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and pull up our next story. So if any one of you guys heard or seen any promotion for the new Thor movie that's coming out?
So far, no, I haven't.
That's the one with Natalie Portman, right?
Oh, yeah. So as you can see right here, I have a picture of Natalie Portman Thor and obviously the old school Chris Hemsworth Thor. Now, this movie comes out, I believe, next month. It comes out officially. There's been a lot of promotion about it over the last few weeks. They just dropped another teaser trailer. And there's a couple of things about this movie going into it. One, if you follow the comic book over the last few years, comics have really gone to complete shit. And there's a story about comic books that'll come up right about this where I'll prove to you just how bad comic books have gotten. But over the last few years, what they've done in the Marvel especially is that they've essentially tokenized all of their original Avengers characters to be more quote-unquote progressive. So over the last few years, you've gotten things such as a Black Captain America, you've gotten gay Iceman, you've gotten female Thor, you've gotten the female Wolverine, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of tokenizations in the film that you've noticed. Even if you go back to Doctor Strange, which we watched, you notice that there was an alternate universe version of Captain America, which turned out to be Peggy Carter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was something that they had planned in a recent What If, but obviously the What If was setting up what they were already going to do in the movie. So here, now that people have essentially walked away from those comic books in the last few years, the current MCU trend is essentially to let's bring all of these comic book characters that people didn't like 6 years ago and bring them to the big screen. So this is what leads us to Thor 4. Believe it or not, there are 4 Thor movies now. This would be number 4, Love and Thunder, where Natalie Portman, who hasn't been seen in the MCU since Thor 2, I believe, was the last time she was around. So that was almost 10 years ago. And she's coming back now to play the female version of Thor in Love and Thunder. So this is their director, Taka Waititi, whatever his name is. Like it's one of those like New Zealand names that like only Josh can pronounce. So
yeah. I'm not New Zealander. Come on, man.
I'm just throwing you under the bus there. I'm just throwing you under the bus there.
Right.
But So he's essentially saying that a lot of people are fearing that this is going to be a quote unquote passing of the torch, where this will essentially be Chris Hemsworth's last appearance as Thor, and then they'll prop up at either Natalie Portman or Tessa Thompson to be the new king or queen of Asgard, which is essentially what happens in the film. So if you recall, the 2017 was when that the Lady Thor comic came out. It may have been a year or two before that. But the storyline was that Jane Foster replaced Thor, but she has cancer. So when she's in her quote-unquote Thor form, like you see here in the picture, her cancer is at bay. But when she leaves that form, she's slowly dying. So that's a conflict that's in the comic book. Now, I don't know how much they're going to touch on that in the actual film. There's been talks about it, but I don't know how far they're going to go into it because they really haven't teased anything up to that point regarding that storyline. But obviously, the director here is trying to calm down any kind of concerns that people may or may not have about whether Natalie Portman is going to replace Thor moving forward.
Right. So you know what the main problem I have with this entire
Go
thing
ahead.
is? I don't even care about the passing of the torch, right? I just don't really care about that, right? So, but the one problem that I have with this is that it took like 10 years to see Captain America wielding the hammer, and now it's like, oh, I think everybody can do it. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, in the next movie, Jane Foster. Remember Jane Foster, the Natalie Portman character? No, she can wield the hammer as well. So it doesn't matter Steve Rogers, it doesn't matter Thor, whatever. No, she can do it as well. I don't even care what the reason behind that is, right? Why is she worthy? Why is the hammer back, right? Because it was destroyed in the previous Thor movie. I don't
Correct.
care anymore because it's like it's again, it's being disrespectful. It's just, I think it's actually more disrespectful to fans than it is to Captain America wielding the hammer or Thor wielding the hammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when we brought that up too, it's like, so obviously they've recreated the hammer that Ella destroyed in the last Thor movie, which was Thor Ragnarok, a film that I actually didn't like at all because I hated the constant like throwback to just pointless comedy that you've seen like time and time again.
I was still clapping at the time.
Still clapping? Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people were.
Yeah, confession time. I was actually still clapping up until Endgame. And then I was black pilled.
No, yeah. So, man, for me, like, it just took me too far out of the film. Like, I just couldn't get into it. It's like every time something good would happen, it's like, oh, well, we gotta get those yuck jokes in.
Yeah.
So he basically talks about the fact that, well, this won't exactly be a passing of the torch, even though there's a picture of him right there kneeling to give the hammer to Natalie Portman, who I have to question how much he even wants to be here. I think we talked about this during the Black Pill stream. It's like she was gone for like nearly a decade, and now she's come back. Like, even like in, what was it, Avengers Age of Ultron, like they basically wrote off her character in like a passing remark. It's like, oh yeah, we're kind of, on a break with not. Then you just never saw her again. But she's back now, and she got, I guess she did a bunch of bicep curls because everyone's talking about how good she looks in the film. So essentially the setup for this film is that if you watch the last Avengers Endgame, they've turned Thor fat for I guess a comedy kick for no reason like whatsoever. And I know like the takeaway was supposed to be like, well, he was depressed that he lost everything, but you didn't play it off as he was depressed. You played it off as, oh, he's fat. Isn't that funny? But of course he gets back into shape, and now he's back with Stormbreaker, and he's back to be the mighty Thor. But now he realizes that, someone else has pretty much already been the Thor that I should have been, even though I've been in exile for I had last number of years now, right? And that's the way how you introduce the Natalie Portman's character. Now we don't know if there's any tease about Thor being quote unquote unworthy, because another criticism people have about this movie is that how many times have we seen Thor in the course of the last 3 solo films and God knows how many Avenger films where he's tried to find himself to become a stronger, better man. It's like we saw this with in the first Thor movie where he had to become the actual superhero Thor. Then he lost his way in the second one. He had to refine his way. Then in the third one, he loses his hammer. He has to find himself again. And he realizes, well, I'm still pretty powerful even without the hammer, so I don't even need that anymore. And now here we are again. So it's almost like we're just retelling the same story over and over and over again with no real direction, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like for what I'm seeing of these, like I kind of see like this is the reason why I stopped watching superhero films for a while. Anyway,
Yeah, because if you've noticed, I think you pretty much noticed this after like the first Avengers movie, where all of the films that they did in that phase one, it was all leading towards something, right? So they said they at least knew what the direction was going to be. It was like, okay, we're eventually going to get to the point where all of these guys team up, and then we'll have our own superhero universe, quote unquote, within the movie verse. And then the second one is where it comes to, okay, well, now we have to start setting up, the big bad of the week when we get into Avengers like Ultron, which, they hugely dropped the ball on Ultron in that movie. And then, of course, everything goes to Thanos in phase 3. But now we're into phase 4, and pretty much everyone is gone except pretty much Thor from the original group. But the question is like, okay, where do we go from here? Because we don't really even have an Avengers team at the moment. All the guys that you have left, you have guys like Captain Marvel, I guess, is still around. We don't even technically have a Black Panther right now, so I don't even know how that's gonna go. Now you have Lady Thor, you got like Winter Soldier and Captain America, with Falcon playing Captain America now. So the question is, okay, where is this all going? It's like you committed. You pull out the poster. It's like, here's all the Marvel movies that we're going to be doing for like the next 5 to 10 years. You don't see any real direction, and none of these films give you any real direction either. Because let me ask you, when you saw the Doctor Strange movie, did it feel like that when you were done with the film that it went anywhere? Like this was going to like a much bigger place, or did it kind of feel directionless when you saw the film? The CW?
oh yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, so I was asking you when you saw the movie, did you feel that they were going anywhere with this universe, or did it feel like the movie itself was just kind of directionless?
Dude, it literally just felt like it was directionless. I literally had literally no, like, I didn't even know what was happening because, I guess I didn't see Avengers or anything like that. But yeah, it just felt like they were just going in all types of directions. Excuse me, I'll be right back. I gotta answer the door.
Good. So yeah, so the whole thing with this film is like, I'm just thinking to myself, clearly they're gonna have to go with some direction with this movie. I just don't know exactly what that direction is. Did you have any?
None of the movies are actually leading anywhere. Like I saw Shang-Chi or whatever. Not when it came out, but when it came out on Disney, and I watched it, and I was like, I kind of enjoyed the first 2/3 of the movie, and the third act was like, oh, it fell apart so hard. But it just didn't really lead anywhere. Like I remember I think it was like the after credit scene. Right, so the after credit scene of the movie, that was like, I think it was Wong contacting Shang-Chi, and I forget the name of the friend, because who remembers the friend? And I was like,
yeah.
Okay, I think they could be showing up in Doctor Strange movie, and they didn't show up apparently. So I'm like, none of the movies are leading anywhere, and at this point, I just don't really care, because none of the characters, even the one character that could have actually made a comeback, which is Spider-Man, is no longer making a comeback, because Spider-Man, everybody forgot who he is. So it's like, he's not an Avenger anymore.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've hated Tom Holland's Spider-Man ever since the whole thing started, because to me, he just comes out more as Spider-Boy than Spider-Man. So right. the whole build-up to him and like the corny, jokes about Jurassic Park just never got over with me. But the last Spider-Man movie, I actually did kind of like where they were leading with his character. But then you got the question moving forward, well, is Tom Holland even going to be Spider-Man in the next couple of years? Or are they going to, replace him with, Miles Morales? Or are they going to do, are they going to bring back, what's the Gwen, remember?
Gwen Stacy, yeah.
Yeah, is she going to play a variation of the Spider-Man like character? So it's like, I don't know, the whole thing obviously just seems like a big marketing ploy, to where it's like, we'll just get people excited for the film, they'll spend their money, and then we'll just immediately start promoting like the very next film.
What is the same thing with Morbius though? Because everybody knew it was a Spider-Man character, and everybody was like, "Oh, look, there's a poster of Spider-Man in the trailer." And like again, I didn't watch the movie because even if I wanted to, like, not even out of curiosity, like I just didn't really care. Morbius, no, I just not even for Spider-Man, not even for Michael Keaton. It's
So
just
irrelevant, you know.
Well, Trap, let me ask you a question real quick. When you saw Spider-Man, did that film get you excited to any future movies, or did you think that for you that was probably just a one-off?
I thought it was really good. I would definitely like to see like a follow-up to that, but I do agree with you that like will he even be Spider-Man in 2 years, 3 years? Because they could make a Miles Morales movie. They could make a movie about Spider-Man 299, 2099. You know, all different versions of it.
yeah,
They
Yeah.
kind of experimented with that with the animated movie, like the Spider-Verse,
yeah.
kind of showing, giving people a taste of, I guess, like the different versions aside from Peter Parker.
Well, it's funny. A guy a few years ago made a joke about an Asian Spider-Man, and I'm thinking to myself, well, give it a few more years, and we may very well see an Asian Spider-Man on one of these days, especially with the whole like Into the Spider-Verse that they did a few years ago, where it's like, okay, now everyone's basically Spider-Man now. It's not just Peter Parker. It's literally everyone in these nameless, faceless universes now can be Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen. It's like, oh god.
Spider-Pig.
Oh, please do not get us started on Spider Pig.
Yeah, and there was like a phrase in the movie as well in the which I love the movie, by the way, the Into Spider-Verse. Even though it's Miles Morales cosplaying as Spider-Man for the entirety of the movie, it's the thing that at the end of the movie he goes like, well, I wear the mask, you could wear the mask, and it's the same thing with Thor, right? So it's like, I wield the hammer, you could wield the hammer, everybody wields the hammer. It's like no, just don't do that.
So let me ask you this question. I guess everyone can answer this question. Is that if they do move forward with, I guess, swapping out Chris Hemsworth with Natalie Portman, would that make you more or less likely to watch the Thor films moving forward? Are you more interested in Lady Thor or even King Valkyrie as they're hyping her up in the next film, or is Chris Hemsworth the draw to you as far as this universe goes?
I would say less because I wasn't even interested in male Thor, so I know I'm not going to be interested in Lady Thor.
Right.
Trappy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go see it, but I am interested to see like how they're gonna take, you know, petite Natalie Portman and put her in the same role as him.
Right.
Oh, what were we saying, Josh? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's funny though because I saw I didn't see the trailer for Thor until the Black Pill on Wednesday. And today, when I was watching Obi-Wan, which, by the way, has got like a really cool recap of I forgot the prequel trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And then you see Natalie Portman, and I'm like, oh gosh, no. So yeah, it's a definite no from me. It's like no, I'm probably not going to enjoy Natalie Portman as Thor in a previous in another movie. Oh gosh, I'm stuttering.
Don't worry, we're all doing that tonight, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder is the next Marvel movie that everyone's hyping out. I don't know. I think it'll be out in June or July. I don't know the exact date, but it is coming out soon. But I don't know, because if you look back at the Doctor Strange movie, it feels like everyone saw that film the first week, and then it pretty much died off on week 2, where there wasn't really a whole lot of people going back to that film to watch it again. So I got a strange feeling that this one, despite being a more popular character, I feel like this movie probably ended up doing a bit worse than what Doctor Strange has at the moment. Let me check the updated the box office for Doctor Strange real quick. As of this moment, it's up to 816 million worldwide, which, if you take into account, its budget and then the marketing budget, I say it's probably about a good 300 million in the black right now. But I just got a feeling that this one, because it's not really a whole lot of hype going into this movie. Like, they're hyping it up, but there's really not anything being reciprocated on the other end right now for this film.
Wait, hold on. What you just looked up the box office for what?
For the No, the I'm talking about the current box office for Doctor Strange.
Of Doctor Strange, right? Yeah. That is not bad, actually. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there was definitely a lot of hype because it was really the first big like MCU film that's been released since how many years? Because after what was it, Endgame, we got movies like Black Widow and like The Eternals and Shang-Chi, like all these like sub tier like B-list movies that no one were really into.
And then there was Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, and then Spider-Man like right after that.
Everybody kind of forgets about that one because it's like, well, it's Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, just making a return, and it's like it kind of feels like a Sony movie as well. Like it doesn't really feel like a, right? Well, Doctor Strange is in it, but yeah.
And then that's another thing to think about too is like Spider-Man, that No Way Home movie did about like 1.8 billion in the global box office, and then Doctor Strange a few months later only does like 800. So I mean, you look at it from that perspective, that's $1 billion drop off in just the last few number of months. So if Thor doesn't meet what Doctor Strange has, then you have to start wondering to yourself, okay, well, where is this going? Like maybe Disney might have a little bit more to panic about than just their stock price.
Yeah.
So is there anybody want to chime in on that before we move on to the next topic?
Nah, I'm good, man.
Yeah.
All right, then. Well, obviously, we were talking about earlier how the comics have pretty much gone all the way to hell. And no better proof than that than the article that came out earlier this week about Batman. And apparently, Batman is now pro-Antifa and pro-Black Lives Matter because in the latest comic written by a complete and utter hack, Batman sees an entire city being burned to the ground by rioters and looters. He decides, well, those businesses have insurance. It's not my job to save them and their profit margins, which is totally something a billionaire vigilante crime fighter would say, right? That's totally not a self-insert by a hack writer whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, I almost wanted to do a video on this one. I didn't get a chance to do it, but go ahead.
Oh no, you.
Oh, sorry. So in the latest Batman comic, Batman Fortress, issue number 1, we see Batman flee from Antifa and Black Lives Matter riot. And not only does he flee from the scene as things are burning to the ground, because that's totally what Batman will do, but he literally endorses it as he's running away. We'll get to the panel here. So the guy who wrote this is Gary, was it Whitaker or Whitaker? And then, of course, if you go find this guy on Twitter, he's pretty much exactly the guy you expect. He's the type of guy who spends all his time on Twitter yelling at like Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell. Yeah. He's exactly that guy. But essentially, what's happening?
Joe Manchin lately, right? Recently, Joe Manchin, Democrat senator, I think it's a senator, right? So everybody on the left is basically just right. They don't like the guy anymore.
Yeah, like not at all, and it's like I said, it's just absolutely embarrassing here. But so Batman, I guess there was a series of blackouts in Arkham, and he's called on to protect Gotham City. And after an entirety of prisoners in Arkham Asylum are released upon innocent citizens in Gotham, so things are going wild, things are going crazy. And then Batman, the crime fighter, you think that will have everything in place to at least stop basic crime looters and whatnot. We're not even talking about going after like Joker or like Clayface or anything like that. Like these are the type of guys that Batman would beat up in like 60 seconds, no problem. But no, he decides that in this one that he's gonna look at the carnage and basically say, not my problem. So as you see here, it might be a little hard for you guys to read. Let me make sure to get it as close as I can here. So Batman is just flying around the city like he normally does, and he stops in front of what I'm assuming is a parody of a Best Buy, because he says Big Buy here. And there's obviously people looting. There's the business right next door that's on fire. People are stealing televisions and whatnot. So I'm gonna read the panel here word for word, so you guys don't think that I'm just making this up. So he says, "Haven't seen a night like this in a while. The last time it was this bad, I was that damn fear gas in the water supply." So he's obviously referring to Scarecrow.
Oh,
said, yeah. Only so much I can only so much I can do to prioritize. Hunt big fish, protect little fish. These places all have insurance. It's not my job to protect their profit margins. In my father's day, the American dream used to mean something, an honest wage for honest work. Food was on the table, liberty and justice for all. Now it's all an illusion, a carrot on a stick, attainable by a few. You mean like you, Batman, Mr. Billionaire Crime Fighter? I continue. Attainable by a few, dangled out of reach for everyone else. A bigger TV, a faster car, shiny objects. Keep in mind, this is Batman that's saying this shit. Like, Batman's whole thing is that he creates, like, this is a dude that probably has, like, $3 billion worth of, like, tech in, like, his belt alone. He's complaining about the uber rich.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says a bigger TV, a faster car.
Tax the rich. Vote Democrat.
A faster car, shiny objects to keep the masses distracted while the world around them burns. You want to blame them for for grabbing the carrot when the lights go out? Go ahead, but don't look at me to stop them. That's not why I do this. And then he literally flies away as the city's on fire. That is a real panel and real dialogue from a real Batman comic that actually exists. So I just want to kind of get your guys' thought on that one. I think we'll start with Josh here. Are you as dumbfounded as I was when I read that?
I was actually, right. So I'm not a DC guy, but everybody loves Batman. I love Batman as well, right? And like I said, back on Wednesday. It's like if you remove every single panel of dialogue in that shot, it's like, well, Batman is like just arriving, sees the whole thing, the whole chaos, people just looting stores and stuff like that, and then he just ups and leaves, and it's like, what does that say about Batman, right? Because you don't get that in a dialogue that he's having, right? You don't get that, and it's like,
yeah,
well. Imagine if you're like the owner of one of those places, right? So which is getting looted, it's getting burnt down, and you just kind of see the whole thing. Batman. Oh, look, there's Batman, and oh no, where's he going? It's what's going on, honestly. It's incredibly disappointing, and I think, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get to this as well. The author of the comic was very feisty on Twitter. So
well, I definitely got that one on tap too.
Defending the whole thing and basically going like, well, if especially talking about John, right, John Trent from Bounding, saying like, well, if I manage to upset some right wing critics or whatever, I can't remember what it was. It's like, yeah, I'm going to take that as a win. And I was like, but no, this is supposed to be like, Batman is supposed to be like the I don't know, children look up to him, right? And it's like, nah, we're just going to let people loot. Nah, this is I'm an 8-year-old. I'm just reading the Batman comic, and if I see an Antifa riot, no, I'm just going to right. So just steal every single one of the items in my grandma's store because I don't care. Batman would have done the same. No, just no.
No, what do you think of that, TW?
Dude, that just doesn't even sound like Batman whatsoever. How did they manage to botch up Batman, dude? It really amazes me how these people always manage to botch up these well-known and beloved characters and series just to push a bullshit agenda.
Yep.
Yeah. Because that's essentially been what at least the last 10 years comics has turned into.
Yeah.
Now, but before I ask Trappy this question, I want to go ahead and read what the writer wrote. So this is from the guy who wrote that panel, who clearly doesn't know anything about Batman whatsoever. He made a couple of tweets responding to the backlash of this, where he said, any negative review I get from a right-wing critic who can't stand the thought that Bruce Wayne might have a social conscience goes to a positive review file. Thanks for this. So he's basically discrediting... go ahead.
Just one thing. Just if you can pull it up a little bit. Scroll up. Yeah. That is actually a tweet. He's actually retweeting a tweet by James Piles, right? He's always on commenting on our articles and stuff like that. So shout outs to him as well, right? Because that's basically the comment he's singling out, right? James
Mm-hmm.
Parsons. And
Yep.
he's talking about Downing right there. The author of the Batman comic. Batman, what is his name? Batman Today, Tomorrow, whatever.
I just have Batman Fortress is the one that he wrote.
Fortress, yeah,
Yeah, Fortress. So then he follows that up by saying, I honestly didn't expect it to be so controversial, but some readers really didn't like the choice Batman made in Fortress 1 to pass up beating down on some people for stealing a big screen TV and saving a busload of kidnapped school children instead. Very telling. It's like, I think it was a little more the fact that, the dialogue he decided to shoehorn into that scene had absolutely nothing to do with the Batman character whatsoever.
Exactly.
Trap Queen, what were your thoughts on Batman dying in front of your eyes?
I can't wait for the next issue about wearing your mask and social distancing.
Oh yeah, it's coming. I'm pretty sure that even though he passed on like beating up a bunch of looters stealing a TV, he'll find some kind of way to to beat up like some right wing truckers or something like that. Or he'll fight like Tucker Carlson in like the next comic. I'm pretty sure.
It's preachy. Like, no one wants to be preached to, and like you're supposed to read comics and watch movies as a form of like escaping from the real world. And no one wants to be preached to like that.
Especially when they're paying like what is it, like $5 a pop for these new comics now?
Yeah, comics are expensive nowadays because they're low in circulation at this point, so you gotta charge more.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like people just want to be entertained, and then you're watching this as a fan of Batman, understanding the entire lore of this character, and you read just complete garbage like that. And then of course all you have to do is hop over to the guy's Twitter and be like, okay, so basically what you did is that you inserted your own social commentary into the character, and then try to gaslight everyone into thinking, oh no, Batman would totally say something like this. Like, you guys must not be real fans. It's like, no, like not at all. It's like you literally have Batman sitting there giving a quote unquote tax the rich speech, and he's one of the richest guys in the entire city.
Yeah, make it make sense.
You're trying to tell people, well, Batman has a social conscience. It's like, yeah, it's like he had a social conscience. That's why he's Batman. He takes the money and the wealth that he has and uses that to help make his city better. And he wouldn't just stand there as literally buildings are being burned down and livelihoods are being destroyed and be like, oh, well, they got insurance. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the billionaire doesn't know how insurance works out. And like I said, these are just the type of people who have taken over the comic industry in the last few years. And you wonder why manga has taken over the last few years. Because in Japan, you don't have to deal with nonsense like this. Like there's no, in Japan, you don't have to worry about, what is the social consciousness of this situation? Or are they pro right wing? Are they pro left wing? It's like, it's all absolute nonsense. You're hiring people who are just putting their own political nonsense into these characters, and nobody wants to see any of that.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot going on with Marvel and with comic books in general. So I want to get a little talk about this one that some of you guys may not have known. This is jumping back into Star Wars. So obviously with this week, Star Wars released a new series on Disney Plus called Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi is like one of the most popular Star Wars characters in the last few years. And obviously, people, there's been a good sizable amount of people that have been pretty hype about this project. Well, now it's coming out. The first episode came out today, but earlier this week, there was already virtual signaling through Lucasfilm, the people who created this, telling people to watch out for racist backlash towards Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they even went as far to warn one of the actresses of the show to prepare for racist backlash to her character. So, if you don't know who Moses Ingram is, now I'd never heard of her before. Apparently, she was a big star on like another show. Josh, do you happen to know what show she was on, or are you familiar with her?
I have no idea. No, but I saw it well today when I watched the episode, and within like 30 seconds of the character's introduction, I was like, oh gosh, I can't stand that character. And I'm like, okay, I don't really feel bad about the actress getting all the backlash, which I'm pretty sure she's not getting any backlash.
Oh yeah, well I mean they always have to prop it up. I'll get to that in a second as well. Well, let me jump here, lost of place. So essentially, she's playing the character of Reverend Sevener, who is working for Darth Vader. So this is set, I believe, after the events of the prequels, right?
Yeah.
So, so in this film, she's
it takes place 10 years after the last movie in the prequel.
okay. That makes sense. I think the last prequel film came out in, what, 2006, 2007. So I think they can.
2005.
Okay, yeah. So they can swing it for the most part. So I wanted to let me go down here because I wanted to get to the meat and potatoes of this story, which essentially that she's playing this character who is supposed to have a big impact in the series. So as we've seen with a lot of these Disney projects, what happens is that they'll sell this project or market this project on the title character. So the draw of this one is Obi-Wan Kenobi, because it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everyone wants to see him in a television show. But what they'll do is that they'll use him as the standard bearer. Essentially, he's the big the inflatable tube man standing outside of the store. And then once you get inside, you find out it's something completely different that you weren't, previously prepared for.
Yep.
So, as a way to get ahead of this, they knew that there was going to be negative reaction if people went to go see an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series, and then he's basically a secondary character in his own series. Because what they wanted to do was prop up this character, the character of Reva, is by just use Obi-Wan Kenobi like in the background. So what happened was that in an interview with The Independent, the actress Ingram told the outlet that Lucasfilm trained her to deal with racist backlash towards her character ahead of the show. Essentially, what they're doing here is that they're telling the actress, and they're essentially telling their audience that, hey, if you go out there and there's negative reaction to your character or to the show, those are just racist alt-right trolls. You pretty much just ignore them.
Yeah.
As a way to kind of, I guess, discredit any kind of legitimate criticism that people may have on the series. So what she says here is that it was something that Lucasfilm actually got in front of. This is a thing that unfortunately will likely happen. But here we are but she said this is something that will likely happen. But here we are to help you. We can let you know, just let us know that when it happens. So essentially what she's saying is that, if you get any, backlash or hate on like social media or whatnot, just let us know. Then our PR team will deal with it. Which you pretty much know what that means. That means that outlets like Otaku and Screen Rant and Collider are all going to have articles ready saying that racist alt-right trolls are at it again. They're attacking this character because they can't handle a strong black woman.
Yeah. The reason why Reva is actually the main character in Star Wars, whatever, right? So that's whatever, right? So
exactly.
Again, the character is incredibly annoying in the first episode. And the one thing that I would say as well is that I'm, just recounting my experience watching the show. I think that she's actually got more lines of dialogue than Obi-Wan in the first episode, and that is already concerning.
Yeah, because you would think that the character that we haven't seen in like 15 something years, that we would at least get readjusted to him and introduce this character down the line. But apparently that's not what's going to happen.
There's one thing that I would say in favor of the show, though. Every single scene that has Ewan McGregor in it as Obi-Wan is just, well, it's kind of great. Because the problem is that we get, and I started seeing the same pattern that I saw in The Last Jedi, when I saw Luke Skywalker being, this very hopeless kind of person. And at one point, at first, you don't really get that from Obi-Wan. You just see him, right? So he's become like a meat packer, like John actually says in the article, and he's working. He's not been a Jedi for like 10 years, and most of the scenes, most of the Obi-Wan scenes are actually silent. Right, he's not saying anything, but he's conveying so many emotions, right, with the acting, Ewan McGregor. So in that sense, I would give them, I would give the show that, right? It's good in that sense. But the problem is that the characterization itself is really, really bad. And it's like you get the same hopeless Luke Skywalker in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's like, no, I don't really want to see this. Nothing. Especially because the show, actually, it's a 50-minute episode, by the way, 50. I would say it's about 15 to 20 minutes in which the show decides to focus its attention on young Princess Leia, which I'm kind of okay. I mean, I like seeing, what's the name of the Senator Organa? Smiths,
Ooh.
something Smiths.
Yeah,
I
I
forget
know
the
what you're
name.
talking about, but the name slipped me
Yeah,
too.
right.
Yeah,
That guy. That is a great actor as well. It's
yeah.
nice seeing him back in the role. But everything else about the about the episode is like so bad. Just like John said, it's like the first 4 minutes of the show, which is basically just we're just going to show you what happened in the prequels.
Hmm.
It's the best part of the show, of the first episode at least, and then you have to watch the next 45 minutes,
Yeah, something
and
that
it's
has
like
basically nothing to do with the original content, right?
right, and it's dragging, and it's so bad, and it's like and it's slow, and then they start doing the old man Luke Skywalker thing again, and I'm like, no, 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 just no. So I didn't watch the second episode because I just didn't want to waste my time on that.
Yeah. So I want to finish up this quote right here.
Yeah, but
So
the
as
character is annoying. The character that this Ingram girl is playing is really
oh yeah,
annoying.
we'll definitely get back to her in a second. I just to finish up here. It
Yeah,
says
yeah,
she
yeah.
basically says, "Of course, there's always pockets of hate, but I have no problem with the block button," which basically means she's gonna block anyone who trashes the show on Twitter. So get ready for a bunch of blockchains, everybody. So here's the point where they try to essentially paint like any criticism of Star Wars as racist, right? Now, this is something they've been doing for the last number of years. If you recall, if you may have heard that Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose Tico in the I'll say the audience panned Last Jedi,
Yeah.
she left Twitter a few years ago, and everyone immediately blamed it on racist backlash from Star Wars fans because the movie was getting shredded at the time, right? The problem is that she never said that the reason why she left Twitter was because of racist Star Wars fans. What happened is that she left Twitter and the media started circling this narrative that, oh, these people who don't like the Last Jedi wrote her off. And when I saw this evidence back in like 2018 when this whole thing was going on, the only thing that I saw was like one or two like Instagram posts from like those one of those shady egg avatar type accounts that like says something like off topic, but you wouldn't even like think twice about it if you read it. It has like no likes and like no followers whatsoever. There was like two comments based on that, and that's what they used their entire narrative on. So they found like one off-brand comment on allegedly from her Twitter because you couldn't even tell that it was from her account or not, and that's what they used to spear basically every person who didn't like The Last Jedi. Now she came back years later and she said that she did an article for, I guess, the New York Times where she talked about her struggles as being like a woman of color and like, being a woman in like America and whatnot. And they used that by saying, well, she responds to the racist hate that she received over the years. It's like, if you actually read the letter she wrote out, she never ever specified anyone that should, any reasoning to saying that, oh, well, I left because these people were harassing me over this movie. So it was basically a media created narrative that they ran with for years, and they're still running with it to this day. They even go as far to say that, oh, people were also being racist towards John Boyega. Now, John Boyega did defend Kelly Tran publicly, but no one actually went after Boyega. As a matter of fact, more people were actually supporting him because he criticized Disney for sidelining black characters in the franchise and other things, like when we saw the Chinese poster of The Force Awakens and then they shrinking him in the poster to such a degree where he's barely even noticeable because they were trying to appease the Chinese audience and things of that nature. There was more people defending John Boyega when he was wheeling those accusations against Disney, but somehow people were also racist against him too, even though there was more people upset about how his character panned out to begin with. So right before I cut back to Josh here, I want to ask TW and Trappy, do you guys have any experience with the Star Wars universe, whether it's the older movies, the prequels, or the Disney Star Wars? Are you guys a fan? Have you guys kind of followed anything that's going on with this over the last few years? I'll start with TW.
Oh yeah. Nah, man. Honestly, the only way that I'm connected to like Star Wars in any way is just playing like some of the games. Like the most recent thing connected with Star Wars for me was, I guess, one of the latest Star Wars games. I don't know if it's like not the Force Awakens, but it's like it's something like that with the little redhead kid on the front cover. I played
Um,
that, and I played that a while back. I might even play it on the channel, but Yeah, that's about as far. Yeah, it's about
Fallen
as far
Order.
as anything from Star Wars that I've been associated with, or
Right,
associate
that
with.
is just a Star Wars Fallen Order game, which is basically
Yeah,
like a
that's it.
Souls. Right, it's a Souls game
Yep.
ish.
Yeah, that's it, my man.
Trappy, do you have any experience with the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, I've seen all the movies up until The Rise of Skywalker, and so I'm a fan of it, but I'm not like that into it. Righties, I know a lot of it because of Righty. Righty's a huge Star Wars fan.
So you seen the Last Jedi, right?
I did, yes.
So I want to get your thoughts on that movie because, as you can tell, that was a movie that pandered a lot to women. So I want to get the female perspective, how you perceive that movie as someone who's seen a few Star Wars films leading up to that point.
I mean, I thought it was okay. It wasn't like amazing or anything. It's like it was kind of the same thing with The Force Awakens where it was really good when you saw it for the first time and then you watch it again. It's like, was it really, that great? Not really. I mean, I guess maybe it's a good thing that they want to put more female characters, but at the same time, you can't just make a character a female and then get upset if people like the character because it doesn't. Most of the time, it doesn't have to do with the fact that they're girls. It has to do with the fact that the character isn't written well or it's kind of shoved into
Yeah.
the story, you know?
So basically, what you're saying is we won't see any pictures of you cosplaying as Rey anytime soon.
Maybe if I get a special request and get sent money, but no, not voluntarily.
I hope you ask for a lot of money. That's all I'm going to say about that one.
Oh,
So
yeah, definitely.
so I'll jump back into the Josh for this one because so this was the line that John talked about in the Black Pill stream. We talked a little bit about this, where it's like sensing that the fan base that they love to the profit off of, yet rush to condemn anytime they reject to criticize their pet project from Kathleen Kennedy, who's basically just running all of Star Wars at this point. Is like this the whole thing smelled to me. It's like, okay, they knew that there was going to get negative reaction based on this because there hasn't been a whole lot of positive reaction about anything Disney has done with Star Wars over the last few years. So they're trying to get ahead of this now by saying, hey, we warned you that we're going to be some racists out there, and if you hear anything negative about the show, just remember it's those racist people.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
but
don't-
you know what? Shit. Yeah, I know I was muted for a little bit. I was dealing with some stuff that was going on at my house for a second. But yeah, one thing I will say is, I'm gonna at least try to defend some of my people, at least for a little bit of a second. I will say that at least when it comes to us, we are in a sense like I don't know what the term is for it, like marginal. It's not marginalized, but in some ways, we do kind of get the short end of the stick. Like especially whenever we have problems or anything like that. Like with Asians have problems. Oh, stop Asian hate. Yeah, Jewish people. They get the whatchamacallit that. I mean, they get their own hate bill, or something like that. And then, everybody else, they kind of get their own hate bill. I mean, their own sort of like hate bill and stuff like that. But when it comes to us, it's like, oh, like when it comes to like hate against us, it's like, oh, well, just be patient, Jesus will, Jesus will get you through the way or some shit like that. Like literally, like, bro, I don't want to pretend like that's not a thing because let's be honest, it is. But I don't agree with the way that people are like weaponizing that shit in the sense of like, because
And that's what we were saying about this. It's like I don't think anyone's like saying that it doesn't exist, especially in like society as a whole.
Oh,
but what I'm saying is that specifically with this scenario is that they're trying to use that to shield themselves from any legitimate criticism that they have in the movie. Because let's be honest, when it comes to the Star Wars, they've essentially been coping since The Last Jedi, right? Because they just can't admit that was a bad movie. They can't. It's like they created this narrative that anyone who didn't like that movie just hates women, and that's why the movie was trash. Even though you could talk about a myriad of things that was wrong with that film, but then now they're just trying to do that defense with like every single thing. And it's like, no, like you've done this too many times. You're not just going to get away with it time after time again. But I want to go back to Josh real quick, get his thoughts about basically this whole thing with Disney trying to get ahead of any valid criticism of this series?
Well, that's the thing though, because if we talk about look, The Force Awakens, for all of its shortcomings, it did one thing that the left is actually, crazy over. And that is basically children's representation, right? So the three main characters, a woman, right? It doesn't matter if she's white, black, Asian. It doesn't really matter, right? It's a woman. Okay, there you go. That's your quota right there. You got I forget Boyega's character. You got Boyega, right? It's a black man, British as well. That for whatever reason he is actually American-ish in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah, he's like American, whatever, right? I was like, weird. What? Well, it's weird. And then you got what's the other guy? The Poe Dameron, right? Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah. Oscar
Right, he's
Isaac.
Hispanic. And then you go your three main characters. All you needed was Rose Tico to get like all the Benetton colors in your Star Wars movies. And I'm like, dude, this is representation. I mean, look, and the one thing, in the first movie, everybody was racing for like, oh, young Boyega, right? Because he was actually the first bait and switch, right? He was supposed to be the Jedi, right? According to the trailers, he was a Jedi. But that was not the case. No, it was Rey, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
The
So
Skywalker.
in that sense, it's like, wait, right? So you asked me about, right? What do I think about Disney just playing the victim?
Yeah, essentially playing the victim in order to avoid anyone criticizing their awful
Right,
products.
so whenever there's some real criticism towards any character, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, whatever, right? No, they're just going to be playing that card, right? So, people didn't like John Boyega, well, you're a racist. People didn't like Rey, well, you're a misogynist. Well, you didn't like Poe Dameron, well, I suppose, I don't know what you are, because that part of the racism for the left still doesn't really exist, right? So Hispanics are still
exactly like that.
We're just going to wait for the opportunity to weaponize that into something else, right?
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. I don't like the way people weaponize that shit in terms of like trying to avoid criticism.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
right, go ahead. You finish your point.
Oh, I didn't really have any.
So I wanted to bring it home with this one, because this one was the one that kind of like sent us over the edge on Wednesday night too, where we were like, so she talks about adding diversity to the Star Wars universe, and this is her quote. She says, "Obi-Wan is going to bring the most diversity I think we've ever seen in the galaxy before. To me, it's long overdue. If you got talking droids and aliens, but no people of color, it doesn't make any sense. It's 2022, we're just at the beginning of that change. I think that change is going to, the start that change is better to have not started at all." So essentially what she's saying is that this Disney Plus series is going to be the first most diverse thing that they've seen in the Star Wars universe up to this point. And I'm like, this thing has been around for 55 years.
Right? I guess he wasn't a thing.
Well, that's exactly the point. This universe has been around for 45 years. And somehow we haven't had any black people in the Star Wars universe up until this series. So forget Lando Calrissian, forget Samuel L. Jackson, forget John Boyega, forget all the other black, like, I think there was like some article saying that, this is going to be the first black female in the Star Wars universe. It's like, what's her name? Like, no, not even that, because wasn't what's her name, like Tiny Newton or whatever her name is? Wasn't she just in? Wasn't she just in Solo like 3 years ago? Like, does she not count?
Oh yeah,
so it's like
Tandiwe, that's a new name. Tandiwe Newton. Newton? I don't.
Yeah, Newton.
Tandy Newton.
Yeah, and it's like, so none of these characters exist. Like, none of these, like, so what you're telling me is that diversity has never existed in the 45 years of this universe up until you guys came along, and now it's going to be super diverse. It's like, That just shows you like the level of ego that these people have with these projects. They legitimately believe that this is the first time we've ever seen any non-white people in Star Wars up to this point. Like it's mind blowing how how self-congratulating like some of these people are. It's like, do you not even watch the series that you guys are writing and starring in? Like, how can you even make that claim?
Right, it's the same thing with the actor from Shang-Chi, Simu Liu, right? That he went like, oh no, this is the first Asian hero movie, martial arts, whatever. And it was like, you don't really have an argument there. I mean, we know Bruce Lee, we know Jackie Chan, we know Donnie Yen, we know all of these martial artists, and it's like, no, I'm the first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is me. It's like I'm gonna be the one that brings diversity to this universe. You know, it's just to me, like this whole thing was like super white until I got here, but now I'm gonna save my people. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like it's almost as bad as the guy who wrote the Batman pictures. Like, you have no grasp whatsoever of the universe that you're writing in. Like, you just don't.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly, and that's the type of stuff I hate right there. Like, again, weaponizing that shit, just to avoid any sort of criticism. And that's one of the reasons why whenever we try to talk about our issues, that shit naturally gets sidelined, because idiots like that want to weaponize it for their own ego.
Yeah, so I mean, look, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the first episode is out right now. If you guys want to watch it, may the odds be ever in your favor. I think it's the best thing that I can say, probably the most polite thing that I can say. But yeah, I just don't see any real interest in seeing that. And we'll know with the articles that come out over the next few weeks, like where the media is, or as far as that whole thing goes, like whether they're trying to get you to like really like certain characters and really shun certain characters, because the people like that always snitch on themselves. So it's only going to be a matter of time for that whole thing falls off the rails.
Of course.
So I want to talk about this, and I'm glad Trappy's here because I want to get her opinion on this story. So this was a story that came out about a week ago, but there was so much backlash about this story, and when you see what caused the backlash, you just kind of think to yourself, "Wow, this is what sent you over the edge." So I'm gonna go here, and we're gonna talk about the Hilary Duff story. So if you guys missed this one, there was a feminist writer for The Independent, and The Independent is a news outlet that's being talked about a lot. I don't know what's going on over there in the UK. Maybe we can just blame Josh for that one and be done with it. But there's a lot of interesting takes coming out from here. So this one took place last week because some feminist writer for The Independent saw one tweet of someone complimenting Hilary Duff's body, and it sent her over the rails. And I'm going to read to you the exact tweet that caused this uproar. But getting into this story here, so Hilary Duff, if you don't know, is 34 years old. She was the former Disney Channel star. She starred in Lizzie McGuire back in the early 2000s. That's when she became popular. I think that was the last show that they did the 65 episode limit for. So you're talking about almost 20, over 20 years ago with Disney Channel. So she's 34 years old now, and she's had 3 kids since that show. So she's a 34-year-old mother of 3 now. And she recently did a magazine cover. Let me go down here for Women's Health, the Naked issue, the one that comes out this month. Yeah. And there's a few pictures of basically what she looks. She looks great. She looks like she's worked very hard to maintain her body and put it there. I'm not sure exactly how safe some of them are put on YouTube. Maybe if we were on another platform, I could show it to you. But if you want to check those out, you can check them out on your own time. She looks great. And in the article itself, she talks about how she's proud of her body. She's proud of the fact that it's produced 3 children for her. She's gotten to a peaceful place in her life with the changes that her body has gone through. So for her, it was more of an empowerment statement that, she's a mother of 3, but she's worked very hard to get where she is now. She's happy with where her body is. She's very comfortable where her body is. Well, this is where things go off the rails, is that this one account here, and let me get this one before it starts bouncing. This one account here, which is a Lizzie McGuire fan account, says that it made a simple statement based on the pictures that were in the article. She said, Hilary Duff has aged like fine wine. That's it. That's the entire tweet. There was no other context. There was no other tweet before or below that. That was the whole tweet. Well, people got so upset by that someone actually wrote an article in The Independent to complain about that one tweet. So before we get to the actual article, here's a few of the outraged people online and some of the things that they had to say. Here's one person that says, WTF, she's 34 years old. Call me when she does this at 43. Women has a personal trainer, a dietitian, and a staff of people to keep her body in shape. But yes, let's act like she's a normal everyday mom. Keep in mind, the original post said absolutely nothing to that fact whatsoever. Right. The one poster said she just aged like fine wine. That was it. Another poster said that people really think you turn 30 and evaporate into dust.
Yeah, someone's jelly.
Oh yeah. Another one. Is there a chance that a man wrote this tweet, or a Gen X, or both? I feel like when we turn 30, we're expected to turn into dust. Once again, no one said that at all.
Yeah.
Making a mountain out of a molehill as usual.
So obviously people were upset. So this one woman, who I believe her name is Kate Nguyen Kent, who covers social issues and women's issues for The Independent, wrote an article entitled Hilary Duff's naked magazine cover is the last thing women need. So essentially what they're upset about is that the implication that the guy who posted that tweet was saying that all women just fall apart in their 30s, which is all projection, because that's nothing what the guy said whatsoever.
Yeah.
But here's the argument that was written here. It says, the internet is falling over itself to marvel about how a female celebrity in her mid-30s could possibly look so fit. Because aren't women supposed to turn into sexist, anamorphic blobs after their 29th birthday? Keep in mind, this whole tangent is coming off of one tweet.
Yeah, and by the way, that is actually very intentional, because mid-30s is 35 and over, but you're supposed to say early 30s if it's, under 35. So, and that was very well-intentioned, like, ill-intentioned.
Yeah.
Right, so mid-30s, no, she's 34, she's still early 30s.
Mm-hmm. So this, she continues, what is a woman of 34 expected to look like? By the sounds of it, whoever manages that social media account seems to think that by the time you're 35, women should resemble an old crone in Snow White, and our vaginas should practically turn into dust when 40 rolls around. Keep in mind, she's going on a tangent based on something no one said.
Right, I've got to ask now, because the writer said an hour vaginas. Is this a real woman, or is a man, posing as a woman?
No, this is a real woman.
You got to ask, right? Cause
yeah, no, this is a real woman, and this isn't one of those questionable women, which we'll get to later on in our closer. Right. But there's a real woman who wrote this, and she just continues on like I said. This is one post, and she's going on for hours. It's like, does this mean women sour and become undrinkable to speak when we hit the same age? Again, referring to an argument that no one's making. So she ultimately finishes her rant by putting even more words into the Twitter user's mouth by saying, comments like this uphold the impossible standards that women are expected to meet if they want to stay visible beyond their 20s. And I think she pretty much holds it pretty steady there. And yeah, it's just it's this weird notion that one little tweet, how many words is even in this tweet? Let me go back up here for a second. It's what about words. Yeah, okay, so we're talking about maybe 8 words in total. And it just caused an absolute meltdown of Twitter replies in an article in The Independent. And look, we all know that the person who wrote this tweet, like I said, it's a Lizzie McGuire fan account. So we all know the person who wrote this wasn't saying this to demean her or any kind of way, shape, or form. He's probably a big fan of Hilary Duff. Saw the picture, is wow, she looks great. And that's pretty much all the context that was in this thing. But because certain people on the internet took a compliment about Hilary Duff's body personally, somehow we came to this rabbit hole to where The Independent is now slamming this one person's tweet. as an attack on somehow of all women. So I wanted to ask Trap Queen, since she's here, since she's the resident woman here on the panel today, what do you think about this whole situation? And do you think that this woman who wrote this thing is completely out of touch or leaves her mind? Or you think there is something to this?
So, I do know like what she's referencing because I have seen people like in kind of like the like red pill MGTOW community say those things, but I've never
Yeah.
taken it personally. I kind of just saw it as like they're bitter about something and they have to, say things. I never took it personally, and I think that that account, the tweet, was just trying to say like she's getting more beautiful like as she's older. Like she's not. She's a different woman than she was when she was on Lizzie McGuire. Like she's become a mother. Like she's become much more admirable.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like the age, like wine, grows better with age. So that's what they're trying to say. It's not a thing of like, oh my God, I can't believe that this old, geriatric looks beautiful at her
Yeah.
age. I think they just were looking for something to be. I think it was something probably that was pent up for a while, and they saw this, and that kind of like just made them erupt, and they had to write this whole thing.
So I want to ask you about this. Is that it seems to me that a lot of these people there's clearly a bit of self-consciousness here with a lot of these people. I think they're kind of projecting a lot of things onto this Twitter user that clearly he didn't say. But do you think that Hollywood creates an impossible standard of beauty for you or for other women, or do you think that a lot of that's just kind of overblown, I should say, by people like this who write articles like this?
I mean, I think that more so than Hollywood, I think that like during like I would say like the mid 2010s, like the kind of rise of like the Instagram like baddie type of thing where the girls have like the BBLs and like they look completely different than they do like on Instagram. You can lie about like your skin texture, like it looks completely different than it does in real life.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that that's done a lot worse for the beauty standard than Hollywood has, because if we look at, let's say, like a Hollywood actress, like there's not too much that a woman can't replicate, because what is it? They're in shape, they have clear skin, they have white teeth. That's pretty much what it is. I think that the Instagram models and like the OnlyFans models, stuff like that, I think they're going to like a lot of different like lengths to modify their appearance in ways that aren't really like natural,
Yeah,
in
yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I personally feel like we talked about this, plenty of times over the years, that I feel like in terms of like women's like beauty standards and self-esteem, I feel like the Kardashians have done more damage to women's self-esteem than anyone else, because it feels like, to me personally, just watching like women like in their 30s and in their 20s now, is that they're all trying to like marvel themselves based on what they view to be like the Kardashian like standard, especially like women like Kylie Jenner and like Kim Kardashian and things of that nature. Have you noticed that too?
Yeah, definitely. Because if you look at a picture of like the Kardashian sisters in like 2007 and compare it
Yeah.
to 2022, it looks like a completely different group of girls. Like they've changed their faces and bodies in ways that aren't attainable naturally.
Yeah, especially the younger ones.
And I think that a lot of like people who look at them don't always understand that like you're not ugly, you're just poor, basically. You can't, afford the cosmetic surgery that they've had.
So Josh, let me ask you, then I'll ask TW. Do you think that men are subconsciously attacking women's beauty standards by saying that they age like fine wine? Because I can understand the one argument I can kind of get is saying that, well, she's only 34. It's like she's like in her her 50s and stuff like that. Because I can understand normally you say that about a woman like in her 40s or her 50s. It's like, oh yeah, she's aged gracefully, right?
Yeah.
Unlike some people that we've noticed that haven't aged also gracefully, because they desperately try to cling on to their looks from their 20s and 30s instead of kind of just embracing and getting older.
Right, and there's also the argument you keep be making about 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, just embracing the whole thing about cosmetic surgery as well, right? So, and I'm pretty sure this one, Hilary Duff, right? So she probably hasn't had any surgeries, I suppose.
Yeah.
But no, like aging like fine wine is actually a proper compliment, in my opinion. Like, how can you get offended if you get that? Especially because the account is called Lizzie McGuire, which I suppose it was like, when was the last episode air, right?
The
Like
last one aired, I think, like
15, 20,
2004.
right? So that's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's been 20 years almost, right? So 18 years.
yeah, yeah,
And that is actually a compliment because 18 years ago, well, she wasn't 30. And
yeah.
that's the whole thing, right? So no, she's aged like fine wine. I would agree with that, right? So I'm 4 years older than this girl, and I'm
Hmm.
like, dude, yeah, I mean, look, I know 30-year-olds and 25-year-olds who don't look like that, and because they let themselves go. That's just nature, I suppose. But yeah, no, that is a proper compliment. I just don't really get why people are getting offended, but I get why the right people or the wrong people are getting offended, right? So the independents,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get what they are getting offended, right? Because it's like, and this is the whole thing. I wanted to bring this up, like, earlier on when you mentioned this, and I was like, well, these people basically support I can't remember the name, but the fat culture thing, right? So we embracing fat,
Oh yeah,
whatever,
the
right?
body
Fat
positivity,
acceptance, right?
right?
Fat acceptance, body acceptance, whatever, right? And they basically embracing this. And whenever you see a woman, a 34-year-old woman that has looked pretty much great since, I don't know, her early 20s,
Yeah, yeah,
now that is probably right. So it's gonna again make them feel like, oh, I don't know, maybe she should have, put on a little weight, right? Because the independent writer is probably like, oh, but why does she want to look slim? Why does she want to
yeah,
look good when she could still love her own body and accept her own body if she was like 40 pounds, heavier?
yeah.
So it's
I just want
basically
to.
what I'm getting to is like, right, it's a very stupid take and it's just a tweet. It's a 4 5 word tweet that you're just making an entire article about because you're offended.
Exactly, and I want to comment on that too because remember, like obviously, there's always been like these feminist complaints about how women are propped up to be. I guess the whole myth of like the impossible body standards, right? Because
Yeah.
back in the day, like 20, 30 years ago, when you saw like a 110-pound supermodel on an ad, it made like certain women feel bad about themselves, and they would always say, "Well, you're promoting an unhealthy body type, right?" And the argument is that,
Yeah.
well, you're promoting an unhealthy body type because women have to do these extreme things in order to stay, that size, in order to stay at like 110 pounds, which isn't necessarily true, especially when you have like certain women out there that know more about like proper nutrition and stuff and things of that nature. But that was the argument that they were using years ago. Now we've gone so far the other way that now we're just propping up women who are, clearly unhealthy, like 300, 400 pounds, and propping them up and say, oh, this is body positivity. So when you see pictures of like people like Lizzo out in a thong and they celebrate that and they'll put that on a poster or whatever it is, you think to yourself, okay, well, 20 years ago you guys were saying that the skinny model was promoting an unhealthy body type, and now here you guys are actively promoting unhealthy body types. So was the body type really the issue to begin with, or was it just the fact that you didn't like that the skinny models were making you look bad because in your mind you couldn't attain their beauty? Like we're starting to get like a lot of like mixed signals, and we're starting to see that, oh, okay, well, I think a lot of these people, not all of them, but many of them, are pretty much just saying like we just don't like certain women that make us look bad. I think a lot of people looked at Hilary Duff, who had 3 kids. You gotta keep that in mind. She's had 3 kids up to this point, and she still looks great in her I guess you could say mid-30s if you want to say mid-30s. While some of these people who may be around the same age probably don't look as good as her, and they probably feel bad about themselves eternally. It's like, well, look, I sympathize with you if you feel bad about not looking as good as Hilary Duff, but at the same time, that's not an excuse to try to tear down the beauty standards of society, because at the end of the day, no one's asking you to look exactly like Hilary Duff. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of guys out there that'll be just as happy with the way that you are, and maybe if you find that guy, you find that love within yourself, you won't have so many issues going forward. I mean, that's just my personal take. TW, what do you think about this?
Yeah, like literally, like I agree, dude. It's so stupid. Like it's just really, like all it is just really the fact that, yeah, that bro, you're just upset that this woman had 3 kids and she looks great, and you're trying to like hide it behind like, oh, you're degrading women. This is shit that I see all the freaking time, dude. If you're basically just jealous of her, just fucking say that. Like that's all it is. Like
Yeah.
stop. Like you make your insecurity more obvious doing that type of shit. Like it's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, and so I think that's just what it comes down to. I think a lot of people, especially with the way that these people are reacting, it just comes down to pretty much jealousy.
Yeah.
That they're jealous that they don't look as good as certain women on television and things of that nature. Well, it's like, well, look, I don't look good as 90% of the guys that are on television as well, but I don't let that set my entire like mentality. I think a lot of these people are so attached with celebrities that they allow the celebrity cultures to kind of ruin their own, in a lot of ways, kind of ruin their own lives and ruin their own self-interest. And another thing too, the idea that, well, she's only 34, like what did you expect her to look like? Well, I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus here, but obviously Hilary Duff looks great at the age of 34, and she's been around for a while. I'm just saying there's other people who have been around for a while, like, I don't know, Lindsay Lohan, that at the age of 36 looks like looks like life has been pretty hard on her with maybe like drugs and things of that nature. Like I said, not throwing anyone under the bus. I'm just saying that there are some people out there that look pretty hard up around the same age that she does. So maybe we should just, take the compliment that, pay people say, hey, you worked hard for your body and you look great.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe just let it go from there.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing is, maybe stop spending so much time on social media, because, dude, people who spend so much time on social media, you're bound to see people that, at least that you think, have better lives than you or better looking than you, when really you don't even know that all of that could easily be a fucking facade, but because you're seeing so much of it, here you are feeling bad about yourself, like, oh, why couldn't I be doing this, or why couldn't I be doing that? My thing about it is, it's like, either if you really want to live like them or look like them, then work hard to achieve it. If you don't plan on doing that, just stop spending so much time on social media if it's going to make you feel bad.
Yep. Yeah. Chappie, you have anything you want to add until we move on here?
I think that when you said about Lindsay Lohan, like, I think part of that was a lot of those. Hilary Duff made it out. She was lucky, but a lot of them did not make it out unscarred, and that's part of it too. Like, she went through a really rough patch in life. That's part of it too. Like, I think Hilary Duff took the better road, where she kind of like quietly left, the showbiz. It kind of, I mean, she's still famous, obviously, but she left to be more private.
Yeah, it feels like most, I would say, women too, because you can look at a lot of Disney women who have had a pretty rough go over the last few years. Like, it feels like the ones that have made it out more unscathed, more like your Christy Carson Romanos and whatnot, are the ones that kind of eventually either detach themselves from Hollywood altogether or just leave altogether. And I think that's probably a big thing with it, because if you get like so sucked into like the Hollywood lifestyle and all the things that go on back there, it's like, yeah, it's very easy to have a very, very like hard life with the things that go on behind closed doors there. I mean, you look at someone like Demi Lovato, who's much younger than both of these girls, and she almost OD'd on heroin not too long ago. So like I said, there's definitely worse stories out there. So I don't think that this one is the most egregious one to kind of have like a meltdown about. I think there's more things. I think there's more things to praise here than it is to just have a complete negative reaction that a lot of people end up having with this whole story to begin with.
Yeah. It's funny though that you bring up Demi Lovato as well, right? Because have you seen the comparison picture? That one of the pictures I don't know, like 5-10 years ago, it was like before socialism and now after socialism.
Yeah. Demi Lovato is that weird case where it's like, usually when people get sober, they end up looking better. And I just think to myself, how do you get worse after heroin? Like, I don't get it. But then again, I mean, another thing people don't really talk about is that, well, I mean, she was clinically dead for a few minutes, so maybe there were some over effects that she's just experiencing now. But I mean, yeah, that whole thing is just the one big tragic story. So, I mean, hell, you can even argue even with like Lindsay Lohan's fault. At least she, doing a lot better than some people are right now. So,
Yeah.
the moral of the story is that don't be so hard on yourself when it comes to the looks of celebrities. But let me go ahead and we'll go here with the closer of this one. And, this is the one that I think Josh has been waiting for all night. And this is Mr. Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, yeah. Or Gervais. I don't know how to pronounce that. So
I think it's Gervais. I think that's the way he usually pronounces it.
Yeah, he probably pronounced it that way, yeah. Gervais.
So
maybe
this is
silent, I don't know.
Yes, this is silent, right? So this is a story that broke a couple of days ago because his latest Netflix special just dropped called I believe it's called Supernature.
Did
you
watch
the name of the story? I have not watched it yet. It's on my list. I'll definitely get to it this weekend before the stream tomorrow.
I knew he had done like a new special. I didn't know it was on Netflix. Now I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I still got Netflix, but it's not because of me. It's because my mom got the account and my brother. It's like the whole thing, the whole
stealing.
Right?
They're just stream stealing. I got people who do that too.
Right, stream stealing the whole thing. So, well, now that I have access to it, I might watch it because I love Ricky Gervais. I don't really agree with his politics-ish because he's actually like a leftist.
Yeah.
That is not an activist. So he's still got common sense in him, right? And he's calling out the whole woke agenda as well. So that's the whole thing. And he's a comedian. Same Dave Chappelle. He's not a right-winger, but I still enjoy his comedy because he's funny. That's the thing.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because, that's going to be a driving point for this whole story is that we're getting to a point now where a lot of these like left-wing comedians, where it's him, Dave Chappelle, Bill Maher, even though they're all like left-wing, like liberals as far as their, politics go, they still believe in the idea of freedom of speech because freedom of speech is the number one tool for a comedian to be allowed to say whatever it is that you want to say and be able to mock whoever it is you want to mock. But over the last couple of years, the progressive lobby has pretty much said that you're not allowed to mock the LGBTQ lobby in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So when Ricky Gervais goes out there and does a skit, I mean not a skit, but a stand-up routine making fun of the transgender community, obviously the first thing that he did was label him transphobic, label him a bigot, label him hurtful, etc., etc. So this whole thing started last week when, earlier this week, I should say, when a minute clip of Ricky Gervais' special trended online. And I'm going to go ahead and read it for you here because they can't play the audio because of, obviously, with Netflix, there's copyright issues. So I'll just go ahead and tell the jokes here. But he's basically talking about the hypocrisy behind like pronouns or gender identity. So I'm going to read this the best that I can. So in the stand-up bit, he says, "Oh, women. Well, not all women. I mean, the old-fashioned ones. The old-fashioned women. It's like, the one with wombs," and in which the audience laughed, and it gives him a applause break. And he says, "Those fucking dinosaurs. I love the new women. They're great, aren't they? The ones that I've been seeing lately, the ones with beards and cocks. They're just as good as gold. I love them." It's like, now the old-fashions want to say, they want to use our toilets. It's like, why shouldn't they use their toilets? For ladies. They are ladies. Look at their pronouns. So then he goes into the part where he says, well, is this person, isn't it a lady? It's like, well, his penis. Her penis, you fucking bigot. Like, well, what if he rapes me? What if she rapes you, you fucking turf whore? So that's pretty much the clip that went around that people got really, really angry about. So he's basically just poking fun at the whole thing with like pronouns, about how trans women are women and things of that nature. So of course the online LGBTQ lobby, almost within like the same hour that this special dropped, all of these people started releasing, reviews, tweets, complaints. They were all complaining. They were all saying that, oh, well, he's a bigot. Oh, this guy's transphobic. He's not funny anymore. Things of that nature.
Wait, he was funny to begin with?
Well, I mean, a lot of people think that he's funny because he's the guy that did the UK version of The Office. Like that's like his claim to fame.
Well,
So
we're gonna call
without
it The Office, and the other one is the American version of The Office. So
yeah, I was talking about the UK one, the one that he starred in, and then I think he wrote a lot of the US one as well too. So
yeah, he was involved.
So he goes on in this comedy bit and he brings up Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart a few years ago was supposed to host the Oscars back in 2018, but because the LGBTQ community propped up one of his old stand-up skits from like 10 years ago where he was talking about the fear that he had about his son having his first gay moment. I'm pretty sure most of you guys have seen that video, over the years as well. And so what they wanted him to do is that they wanted him to apologize for that stand-up a bit. Well, Kevin Hart said, well, I've apologized for that a bit many times over the years. I'm not doing it again. So there was basically like a line in the sand saying, well, if you don't apologize again, then you're not going to host the awards. So Kevin Hart said, well, then I'm not going to do it. And he backed out. So Ricky Gervais talks about that incident, and I'm going to go ahead and transcribe what he's saying here. He said, if there's no value to saying sorry and evolving, he might as well just tweet him again. And he says, you can't predict what will be offensive in the future. You don't know who the dominant mob is going to be. Like, what's the worst thing that you can say today that can get you canceled on Twitter? Death threats. What's the worst thing that you can say? Women don't have penises, right? It's like, wow, no one saw that coming. There's no 10-year-old tweets of people saying, you can't find a 10-year-old tweet of someone saying, women don't have penises. Do you know why? Because we didn't fucking have to say it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he finishes his bit by trying to bring it all together by saying, that, at the end of the day, full disclosure, I, in real life, of course, support trans rights. I support all human rights. I support trans rights are human rights. Live your best life. Use your preferred pronouns. Be the gender that you feel you are. But meet me halfway, ladies. Lose the cock. That's all I'm saying. And that was his going away bit for the stand-up special. So, of course, immediately after this dropped, multiple outlets attacked him. The Independent, once again, that name's come up a lot over this last week, did a review, gave him a 2-star review, saying that it was a bunch of cheap jokes that humiliated trans people, and they gave it a 2-star review. Pink News, which is like, I guess, a gay news outlet, basically said that it was nothing more than anti-trans garbage fire. This guy, Daniel Donardo, who's a television critic for Variety, went out of his way to not only slam Gervais, but basically proceeded to slam Netflix by saying that the streamer doesn't side with anyone but their own. Obviously, he's a little upset because a lot of LGBTQ people got fired from Netflix recently, and so they feel like they're losing Netflix as their big personal platform or whatnot.
Yeah, that's not biased journalism at all.
No.
Oh no, definitely not. That's definitely straight and on the arrow.
Yeah.
So before I get to some of the other tweets here, I want to get some of you guys' general reaction to what Ricky Gervais said. I'll start with Josh, then we'll move our way down.
100% funny. I will watch the show maybe as soon as the stream is over.
Oh, well, shouldn't be too far around.
That's all I got. I really think nobody should be getting, the offended by anything that, especially if it's jokes. And no, I don't care if you're targeting again the alphabet people. And I'm gonna be very specific, right? So the alphabet people are the activists, right? It doesn't matter if you're gay or not. If you're right, so you're constantly perpetrating activism, right? That's who you are. You're the alphabet people. It doesn't matter if you're gay, no, whatever, right? You're the alphabet people just because you're activists.
Yeah. So, Trappy, what did you think about Ricky Gervais' whole bit and what do you think of this whole situation? Trap might be out for a second, so we'll jump off to TW here.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I don't understand, why this would upset. I mean, I get it why people are upset, but when comedy, no group is off limits, it's kind of like everybody's
right.
like white people, black people, Asian people, gay people, nobody's safe basically. And I think that people just need to just chill. Is this really worth getting upset about? comedy bit on a show, no.
Oh, I think some of these people like understand that when it comes to like comedy, that if you look at the left in the way they view comedy, they've gotten away with many years of mocking their political enemies. Like you look at shows like The Daily Show, Jon Stewart. You look at guys like Stephen Colbert, and Samantha Bee, Trevor Noah. All of these Daily Show clones we've seen over the years, like Seth Meyers and all this stuff, Jimmy Kimmel. They all use comedy as a way to tear down their political opponents, right? So now that other comedians are kind of tearing down their own community, not even as viciously as they do. Like some of these people, like they truly hate the people that they're talking about in comedy. It's not even like actual comedy. It's just pure hatred. But obviously a guy like Ricky Gervais isn't doing these comedy bits because he truly hates trans people, because he really doesn't. But it's like, I'm going to joke about your community the same way I joke about anyone else. Like in the stand-up special, he's joking about Americans. He's joking about, Christians. He's joking about religion and stuff like that. So it's like, why is it that you think that only your community is off limits, but you'll sit there and laugh like literally everything else? Like that doesn't make like any sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
TW, what do you think about this whole situation?
Yeah, other than the fact that I'm actually surprised that Ricky Gervais has actually said anything funny. Yeah, this is entirely right, man. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, once again, it's it's all this. This is just the LGBTQ community proving how fucking biased they are, and just. Like, see, it started out with, like, wanting, gay rights and wanting gay marriage, which, hey, respectable, understandable. But now you're, like, pushing other people away and basically becoming the very thing that you hated all those years ago, which are fascists.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, because you're trying to force your way of life down people's throat. And it's just like, oh, like if anything, like if like, hey, again, like you said, if they're talking about, if he was talking about like any other group, it would be fine. The minute he starts talking about their group, oh, we're pissed. No, it doesn't work like that, jackasses. Yeah. Like you call a spade a fucking spade. Are you offended by everything, or are you not offended by anything at all?
So obviously things got a little more crazy here, because I have some of the tweets that were sent out now, along with the condemnation from all the media outlets. So here's a few of the tweets that complain about Ricky Gervais' special. One Twitter user said, Ricky Gervais has a new stand-up special on Netflix today. 5 minutes in, he's making jokes about trans women attacking and raping people in public bathrooms. To him, we only exist as a punchline, a threat, something less than human. It's like, that's an interesting take for 5 minutes into a comedy show.
Yeah.
Here's another tweet. Ricky Gervais is a disgrace. He's going to cause hate crimes, ultimately the death of trans folks. Anyone who needs to vilify minorities to get a laugh is so evil and hateful soul who desperately needs mental health. This one was the one that got me the most, because it was like, You're literally saying that Ricky Gervais' Netflix comedy special is going to get trans people killed because he made jokes.
Yeah.
Like a fight.
More about you guys.
Yeah. And not only that, but they also threw in that now the trans people are minorities. So they're a part.
This is great. So yeah, so we don't count no more?
Nope.
Oh,
so all you black people and Hispanics and Asians, you gotta let these people into the club too now.
Oh, but it's like, dude, we're still getting the fucking short end of the stick. But of course, hey, let's leave. Yeah. Let's conveniently leave that out. Whatever.
But that's the thing. That's what this whole progressive ideology is like. Who's the bigger victim at the moment? And now they think that they're the absolute biggest victim.
Right. Yeah.
Here's another one. Watching people cheer for Ricky Gervais and his new special full of anti-trans jokes does it's implying that trans women are men and that rapists pass for a joke these days. It just hurts. What a reminder that people see us as subhuman. We used to like you, man. Super nature. Well, it's like, well, here's the thing. I just mentioned this earlier. I'm pretty sure you were laughing when he was telling jokes about Christians. Because he's been telling those jokes for many years, right? Like that's
on.
been always been a part of his stand-up. So you loved him when he was talking jokes about people that you didn't like, but now you guys are above the joke. Now you guys are upset.
This is fucking laughable.
So here's another one. Ricky Gervais' new stand-up special, Super Nature, makes jokes about trans women attacking and raping people in public bathrooms. This isn't comedy. This is just making cheap, nasty stereotypes out of a minority group. Please, if you're transgender or support trans lives, do not watch this. Because somehow watching this is gonna kill people, I guess.
Well, again, that says more about, that says more about you guys if you let a fucking Netflix special cause you to riot in the fucking streets and kill people.
Yep.
That's
So
fucking insane you are. Oh yeah, but go ahead, my bad.
No, I was just gonna point out. So, like I said, a lot of comedians are noticing now that there's essentially a civil war going on between like stand-up comedians in the trans community at this point, because we all know about the guy who last month attacked Dave Chappelle in Los Angeles during the Netflix special they filmed down there. And he was quoted earlier this week saying that this is what he said. I'm going to read what he said. I'm going to read what I kind of think about the situation. Is that I identify as bisexual, and I wanted him to know that what he said was triggering. This is Isaiah Lee, the guy who attacked Dave Chappelle, then got the crap kicked out of him by like 20 guys. Yeah. And then he said, I wanted him to know that next time he should consider first running his material by people who can affect who it can affect. Now, that's what he said. That's what a lot of outlets ran with. I'm not certain that I believe that he's bisexual, and that's the reason why he did it. Because to me,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because to me, he seems like more of a nutcase. Because apparently he's up on charges now for like trying to like stab like his roommate. Isn't that right, Josh?
Right, he is. I don't know if you can actually pull that up as well. Like the article that I brought, there's a follow-up to this one. And I'm not really interested in the article per se. I'm actually kind of interested in, one of the things that he said. And then one of the comments in the comment section down below, right? So basically, he said that he was.
This is yours, right?
Right. Yeah. This is the follow up.
Okay.
That's the guy right there. But he said that he was molested when he was 17, right?
Yeah.
And one of the comments actually mentions. I mean, look, try to find that the part where he says he was molested or like.
Let me see if I can find it.
I don't remember what that is, but yeah. But basically, this is his claim, right? He was sexually assaulted when he was being part of a thing, and I can't even remember because.
Was it in this one? Was it in this one?
Yeah, no, that is the article, but I can't remember where it is. I think. Oh gosh, that's what it was. Yeah, but Lee, that's just right. Do the search on Lee and scroll it up.
Here it is. It says right here that Lee said triggered past memories of his own molestation at the age of 17 while under the care of the Department of Children and Family Services in Los Angeles, right?
Right, but then and right there, the in the other paragraph, right above that one, just right there, right, he says, I'm also a single dad and my son is 5, right? So, and he is a 22-year-old man. So 5 years ago, he was 17.
Oh yeah, you're right.
There was people in the comments going like, "Well, if you were 17 when you're being molested, I think it was you, the one who's doing the molesting thing, right? Maybe not molesting, but maybe just doing the raping thing. I don't know, but that is like it's like a very weird kind of like it's like one of those things that kind of like catches you in your lie at one point, right? So if there's a trial like the Amber Heard,
that's definitely a red flag,
right? It's like one thing, right? So I was molested at 17, but my son was born when I was 17. Or something
it's
like
it's one of those things where I don't think anyone really picked up on it till someone pointed it out in the comments, and they were like, "Wait, he said what?"
Pick it up. I wrote the article. I didn't know, and then I was reading the comments, and I was like, "Oh, that is a really good point."
Yeah. But basically what I was saying about him is like he definitely seems like there's a lot of screw looses in that guy's head. So I can't sit here and say for certain that when he attacked Dave, it was because that he identifies as a bisexual. Because keep in mind, it took him like a couple of weeks after the incident for him to even make that statement. So I mean, he could have just very much been out of his rocker and decided, that
Right.
he was
So
going to jump
basically,
on
the whole
stage.
Dude, I
right. So
think
basically, this whole article that I wrote, I think it was last week,
Hmm.
is that the whole thing, the whole Dave Chappelle attack, basically brought attention to another crime that helped identify the attacker of stabbing in
Oh
December
yeah,
of
yeah.
last year, right? So like 5, 6 months ago,
oh
and that's how they knew, because the one who was stabbed was like, oh, I know this person. This is the person that actually stabbed me back in December.
Wow.
And that's the
yeah,
only
and
right, and that's the only reason where they know right now that this person actually stabbed somebody in
yeah,
December of
see,
last year.
and I actually want to make well, actually, I want to make a point and an irrelevant point real quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, like here's the thing, I feel like he does have some screws loose, like society said, this Isaiah Lee guy, but at
yeah.
the same time I also think he did that shit, just to make himself famous and conveniently say he was bisexual so that he could get the LGBTQ people on his side. Because let's remember, like, this dude is an aspiring rapper,
Yeah, aspiring rapper. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
named No
Oh
Name
God.
Tracker. And the irrelevant point that I want to make is I've heard his stuff on SoundCloud. Garbage.
He's gonna
Of
have
course, he's
he's
on
gonna have
SoundCloud.
Yeah.
right. He's probably
I
gonna
mean,
have to
dude, the
start
guy's a
pandering.
SoundCloud rapper, bro. like
Hmm.
I literally listened to his stuff like right after that. Even the song he made about Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Man,
It's
all
like I
the
saw his profile on MySpace.
Trappy, you don't listen to his music, do you? You haven't listened to any of the Dave Chappelle Attacker tracks recently?
Oh no, I didn't even know he rapped.
Apparently, no one did it until he decided to attack a famous comedian. So, I mean, I guess
Right.
there's that.
Yep. Yep. He brought it up before
Yeah.
anybody else did.
So then we'll go ahead and wrap it up with this last one. So Bill Maher on his weekend show, the Real Time on HBO,
Yeah.
he had a monologue last week, which he was attacked by the LGBTQ lobby, because this is the takeaway that I read is what he says. So he's basically describing the difference between California and Ohio, the rest of the country. And he says, if you attend a small dinner party in very typical liberal upper income Angelinos, which I guess he's talking about Los Angeles because that's where the show is. It's like, it's not uncommon to hear parents who each have a trans kid have a conversation about that. What are the odds that this is happening in Youngstown, Ohio? If this spike in trans children is all natural, then why is it regional? Either Ohio is shaming them or California is creating them. So even Bill Maher has gotten into the questioning a lot of the I guess you could say actions of this community. So, and keep in mind, all of these comedians that I mentioned, Bill Maher, Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, these are all left center comedians, right? I think Bill Maher may describe himself to be a progressive, but even though he's at odds with a lot of things that modern progressives are these days as well. But I think comedians are really starting to take note here that if they're going to essentially have a job moving forward, if they're going to continue to be comedians, that they're going to have to push back against this lobby, against this community, the notion that they're not allowed to make jokes about them or make any kind of social commentary about them whatsoever. Because if they don't stand up now, then what's going to happen 10, 15 years from now is stand-up comedy just going to die? And if stand-up comedy is dead, then what does that say about freedom of speech here in the United States? So I want to go ahead and just get final thoughts on this story. I think we'll start with Trap Queen here. What do you think about this story?
I mean, I think you're definitely going to see more and more like left of center type comedians come out against this stuff, because a lot of them started getting popular like around 20 years ago. So now their
Yeah.
brand of like, politics isn't really like trendy anymore. Like people want them to go, you have to go further either way. And I could see it definitely happening with like Sarah Silverman types, people like that. Definitely gonna be in an awkward position.
Oh yeah, definitely with people like Sarah Silverman, which is funny to me because she's kind of the one that's like you hear her a lot talking about like what you can and can't say. And it's like you want to pull up some of the episodes of your own stand-up comedy and some of your TV shows because I'm pretty sure some of the things that you've said and done over the years is far more offensive than the stuff you're trying to condemn now. But you do have certain comedians like that who try to like I guess close the door. Now that they made it, they try to close the door on everyone else, like people like Amy Schumer and such. But like I said, there's a lot of people you could point to be like, well, your stuff wasn't exactly as clean and sweet as you make it out to be as well. TW, what do you think about this closing story about the whole LGBT lobby and the comedians?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's ridiculous. These people should not have so much fucking. They should not have as much influence as they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, man. Because again, this is like a section of people, man. Just like heterosexuals. Just like anyone else. This is a section of people. Like, why are we treating these people like freaking royalty, dude? Like, it's
Yep.
stupid as hell. Like, dude, you can't let these people fucking cancel you, man. Because because these people can't cancel you. You can only cancel your fucking self. And on top of that, any of these companies or organizations that are stupid enough to like I guess shut some of these comedians out in favor of the I said in flavor, but in favor of the LGBT fucking Q community, man. Those are companies that I don't think you really want to be fucking with to begin with if they're that stupid. But as for Bill Maher, I didn't even know old dude was still around.
Oh yeah, still around, still making. I guess you could call it a comedy show, even though it just feels like a more edgy version of just the night stuff you see on every other network now. But I'll go ahead. Josh is still here. I can get his final thoughts on this one.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, comedy is comedy, and whatever is funny and makes you laugh, I think that is everybody should be respecting that as well, right? And especially when these comedians like Bill Maher, it's just like, yeah, sure, the left leaning. I think the more centrist that they actually give themselves credit for, because I don't, yeah, I suppose that's actually the thing. And it's like Elon Musk, right? So he went like, well, I'm voting for the first time in my life Republican now, right?
Yeah.
He was a centrist. He was voting for Democrats before, and because of the whole thing about cancel culture and freedom of speech being basically cancelled by the left, and it's just the left. It's not even the far left. It's just the left cancelling
Yeah.
freedom of speech, and that's basically what the whole thing comes down to, right? So comedy is the same thing. You can't really cancel comedy. Whatever makes you laugh, it's funny. Then I don't think there should be a problem with that, right? I'm myself. I'm a Christian. I'm Catholic, right? And I don't really care. I mean, I laugh at the Catholic jokes at the expense of Catholics, at the expense of Christians, or the expense of all of that, because
Yeah.
it's funny. And whenever something makes you laugh, especially because like, oh yes, they got us. They really got us with that
Exactly,
one.
bro.
It's like it's funny. You don't really You don't need excuses to make comedy, and that's the problem. When you try to cancel things that you don't like just because you don't agree with that. No,
Yep.
no. Just don't.
And
So in
that's
my
the thing.
opinion, yep.
I just
I
wanted to
didn't
make
really
this.
have any concluding thoughts. So
I just wanted to touch on a point that you made real quick. Is that yeah? I mean, I think a lot of us that kind of just grew up with like the stand-up comedy of like the 1980s and the 1990s. It's like yeah, we're used to just being like mocked. Like it didn't matter like who you listen to. It's like.
yeah.
We all listen to like ourselves be like laughed at by like stand-up comedians. It's like these are comedians that told fat jokes, white jokes, black jokes, Christian jokes, atheist jokes. Like that was just the way that it was. Like people got made fun of, people got mocked, but at the end of the day, everyone laughed and took it well. It's like there was even a time where comedians back in the 90s would pick out people in the crowd just to make fun of them in the middle of the show. But it's like no one ever got upset, no one ever got pissy and things of that nature. Like everyone just laughed with everyone else and things were fine. But for some reason, we're in this new age where I guess some people think that they're just above all that. They're above going through what everyone else went through, and that's obviously a problem. That's a problem that's going to have to change sooner rather than later.
Yep, 100.
Well, I tell you what, we're hitting the 2 hour mark here, and I got to say, for the first podcast that I've done on this channel in about 3 or 4 years, this came out way better than I actually thought it was going to. I mean, I think everyone pretty much contributed greatly here, and I think everyone went pretty well. How did you guys feel?
Hey, this was great, man. I'm glad to be on like the first or the, I guess, episode 0 of this thing. I think it's pretty cool, and I hope to be on more of them in the future.
Definitely. So go ahead, and I guess I'll give you guys a little time here to promote your stuff, what you got going on. So let me see if this works. I think we'll start here with you, and tell the people where they can find you moving forward.
All right. Well, yeah, man, you guys can find me, TW Booty Hunter, basically on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch. I stream on both YouTube and Twitch, but if you want to see the streams after the fact, you got to go on Twitch because they don't stay on YouTube, bruh. And also check out the latest video I put out, which was, like I said earlier, a Mortal Kombat X arcade mode, arcade tower playthrough. And tomorrow, I have no idea on what I put out, but I know the next playthrough that I'm going to be doing is a Mortal Kombat 11 arcade mode playthrough. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to skip on to Tekken. And eventually, I'm going to get to doing like the first actual walkthrough or long playthrough on the channel. And I think that might be GTA San Andreas. So there you go.
All right, that's for TW. Now let's move on to...
Hold on. GTA remaster or the OG?
OG. No, I'm not playing that remaster. I'll be damned if I play that remaster.
Yeah, the OG is the best.
Yeah. No, fuck that. We going with the OG. I don't care what none of them soy boys say. Oh, this is the old version. You damn right. I'm not spending money on that remaster.
All right, then. Now let's move over to Trappy, who I'm pretty sure has a lot of things that she would like to promote for us here. So what do you have down the pike coming up in the future?
Hopefully trying to be more active on YouTube, do more streams. My channel is Brittany Rose. It's a picture, my profile pictures of a little dog. And I'm also active on Twitter at Cinnamon Bunny, but with a 1 instead of the I. And that's where you can find me if you want to hear me talk more and blabber more about my opinions. But
don't you have a little question site that you want to hype up to so people can ask you the questions?
Oh yeah, that's in my Twitter bio. The link is there.
All right, cool. And then we'll close it all with Mr. Josh. I mean, I think I know what you're going to be doing here in the future, but why don't you tell the folks what you're going to be doing here?
Right, yeah. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I don't really have a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, but I don't really upload videos to it yet because I'm still getting all my equipment. I bought a microphone last week. That's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Like when you say on Wednesday, it's like everybody's wearing wireless headsets.
Wireless headphone, yeah.
I got a new pair of headsets, and then I don't know who interrupted, and I was like, I bet, I just better not talk about it. Yeah, but I actually got a new pair of headsets. I got the camera and I got the microphone now. So I'm actually, I want to start doing videos, but that is not for a while. In the meantime, though, you can actually find me on Bounding in the Comics, and basically that's where it is, right? And maybe on Twitter, right? So the average Josh 83, I think it is. I don't really post anything on Twitter, right? So I'm not really a social media person, but still, if you want to follow me and see the low quality content that every now and then I post, feel free.
All right, then. Before I go with what I got to do, I wanted to show you guys here kind of the mess that I'm dealing with right now, because we mentioned the whole headphone situation. So let me show you guys what I'm dealing with here. So I got the ones that we usually use for the Wednesday podcast. I got this right here. I got these that just came in.
Face reveal.
I got these that just came in, all black. I was going to use these because the Bluetooth on mine was screwing up. And then I have my emergency headphones, which is just the little tiny gummies that I was using for the first couple of
Oh,
podcasts here.
Oh, yeah.
So as you can see, I have just a complete mess of stuff that I'm dealing with right here. So,
Hey, you
but I
got
just
a
want
better
to.
setup than I do, bro. Like, when I tell you I ain't using shit, but just my laptop speaker.
Oh yeah, dude, I don't got like a fancy thing going here, but I just got like a new camera, like a new mic and stuff like that. Just the basics until we get this thing off the ground. But telling you guys what I'm gonna be up to here. So tomorrow night on Twitch, I do have a Twitch channel. It's in the link below, so you can go subscribe to that one. Tomorrow night we'll be doing a movie night, and we'll be reviewing the movie Heathers. So I got a few guests lined up for that one tomorrow night. Obviously, Spencer, the guy who we do the Black Pill stream with, he'll be on there tomorrow night. Rob Motto, the condescending critic, will be on there tomorrow. Martina Markova will be on tomorrow night, and a few other people. And we'll watch the classic 1980s film with Christian Slater, Winona Ryder, and Shannon Doherty as well. So that's what we got coming up next.
Shannon Doherty, of course.
Oh yeah, I love Shannon Doherty. At least 90s Shannon Doherty. I can't co-sign for anything like past that.
Damn, I ain't heard from, that's another person I ain't even know was still around.
Well, she's still around for now. But outside of that, next week hopefully we'll do another one of these. I want to be episode 1, I guess, because episode 0 went so well. So we'll be back. Some of our guys might be back. I might have some new guests to talk about some news stories. And then on June 13th, on Monday nights, we'll be doing Society Reviews Movies, where it's going to be me, Rob Motto, Rick, and I believe Sarah. I'm not sure if Sarah is 100% in just yet, but I'm hoping to have her on. We're going to be doing weekly movie review streams where we're just going to talk about all the new releases. So our first movie will be Jurassic World Dominion, which I'm very excited for. And by very excited, I mean not excited at all. And we're also going to review that new Adam Sandler Netflix film about basketball. I can't remember the name of it. It just left my head, but that's also going to be on the ticker. So basically, we're setting up here on Society Reviews to do a lot more streams. We'll get a lot more guests on here and a lot more panel discussions. So we got a lot of exciting things going up. And hopefully all of our future streams go just as well as this one. So find all of our guys here on our panel on their social medias that they listed below. But until then, we will see you guys. Hopefully, I'll see most of you guys here tomorrow for the Heather stream, because that should be pretty interesting. If not, I'll see you guys here next week. So for Society Reviews, for Josh, for TW, for Trappy, have a good night, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.